And so, I'm going to go jump a little bit. I don't want to get into Nasera because Lord knows I've spent enough time on Nasera during this show, and I've done whole shows on Nasera, and you can read about Nasera at NaseraSucks.com. But this is what they call the grand experiment, folks, this whole time coming up, when mankind will have an opportunity to jump together from the 3D into the 5th dimension. They call it the grand experiment. They call it reaching the top level stages of soul growth. And so that's where all this ascension and soul growth stuff goes, so that you can jump from linear time into eternal existence. When I get into it, I started reading, and what I did was I sent out on my list the other day about the heresy journals that they call the Phoenix journals. And so what I wanted to do was some of the lowlights of one of these journals. I have this journal number 2. It's called I Am Sananda. I Am. He loves that I am. I mean, every time these channelers speak, it's I am, I am. They love that I am. Use it all the time. And so they wrote, what they did was they wrote a whole set of journals. And it pretty much basically grounds all of their teachings into what they say is scrolls that were found in a cave. And you got to be careful about all these scrolls being found, folks. You don't want to change your thinking and your doctrine too much just over scrolls that are found, because they're popping up all over the place and they're teaching garbage. And so you really have to be careful, because nothing found even now would contradict what the Lord has taught back then. He doesn't contradict himself. He doesn't introduce any new kind of doctrines or anything that's not already there, something that wasn't already believed by his people at the time. But what some of these what they call the Phoenix journals, and I read through number 2 this past week, is that they teach that the 10 Commandments are man-made foolish laws that are contrary to the laws of creation and nature. And if you read this Phoenix journal number 2, it basically is all the Gospels, probably the entire book of Matthew, rewritten from their point of view, obviously. What they do is they take whole chunks of Matthew and leave them intact and rewrite them and just add in their own garbage to it, or take away the significance of what's actually being said. So when you look at it on the outset, it looks like you're reading the book of Matthew, but then when you really start getting into it, you realize how far off the wall it is. Another thing they teach is that there's no such thing as a holy Sabbath day. That Sabbath day is illogical. The creation doesn't stop for a day. So work still needs to be done, and the Sabbath is just like any other day. So this of course in opposition to the Lord, who admonished us to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, from the 7th day shall rest. And here the churches have been arguing over which Sabbath to honor, and then here these guys come by and say, hey, there is no Sabbath, don't worry about it. I guess, see that one, they'll settle the arguments right then and there. Hey, there just isn't one. Don't worry about it, folks. And another thing of these coming apostasies, that what they want you to do is focus on worshiping the creation and not the Creator. Everything about them is about the creation, and to them, God is subservient to the creation. Everybody and everything is subservient to the creation. The creation rules above all. And so it's kind of asinine, because obviously the creation had to be created by someone, which is God. So God wouldn't worship his own creation. His creation would be worshiping him. What they do is they turn it around and make it backwards, so that instead of worshiping the Creator, you're worshiping the creation. And you've seen that in pagan religions now. You know, all the paganistic and earth-based religions, they worship creation. Everything has a life in it, everything has a spirit in it, blah, blah, blah. They worship creation, and they don't worship the Creator. So just a clever way of Satan of changing people's focus off of worshiping the Creator and into the creation itself. They teach that everything is comprised of energy, even physical matter. is energy, and all energy emanates from God's thoughts. One can accept the idea that the successful focusing of millions of minds on one expected happening will cause it to happen. And this is here what they're telling you, how they believe jumping from a linear time, 3-dimension, that we can jump into a 5th dimension of eternal time. Is that having focusing of millions of minds on one expected happening. So this is what they're going to do. They're going to try to get millions of people around the earth to focus and meditate on jumping into this eternal existence of 5th dimension. I think they're going to find it's not easy getting the world to focus and meditate and agree on anything. But that's their plan, folks. That's a big part of their plan. It is Commander Hayton, also known as Aton, also known as Archangel Michael, who is the primary author and compiler of these Phoenix journals, and he speaks to this girl named Dharma. It's a channeled scroll. He channels all this material through her. And one of the big aspects of it, which I thought was really funny, is that they have Judas there. We know Judas Iscariot as the one who betrayed the Lord. And they come out and claim that Judas never betrayed the Lord, that the whole thing was a lie. So Judas himself is one of the spirits that channels through this Dharma, these scrolls, this information. It's something that they actually said something that was worthwhile. They said Satan comes in the sheep's cloth to kill the lambs and proclaims himself the Prince of Light. And that's exactly what he does. Satan comes in the sheep's cloth and kills the lambs because the lambs wouldn't trust anybody else. And so he comes disguised as one of them. And that's exactly what Satan's going to do. It's exactly what the false prophet's going to do. It's exactly what your preachers are doing in the churches today. They tell you that they're preaching from the Word when they're not. They're slipping in false doctrines, false ideologies. They pull one verse out of the Word, take it out of context, read that during the service, and of course people never even open up their Bibles to verify they're even using it in context. And you want to know the truth of that? Because if they did do that, none of these Pentecostal wolves would be in business today. You wouldn't have the Beast Network pulling in billions of dollars a year. You wouldn't have the Hinns and the Copelands and all of them pulling in millions of dollars a year in donations from people who are full, that will tell you they can't be deceived. They'll tell you they won't be deceived, they can't be deceived. Well, they're funding the wolves right now as it is. Can you imagine when Satan comes, when all this other stuff starts hitting their churches? How many haven't figured out that Joel Osteen is just preaching self-help psychology instead of the Word of the Lord? And look how many he's filling up. Look how many he's bringing in a week. I mean, it's in every direction, folks. It's in every direction. So many people who just aren't reading their Bibles and buying into all these New Age techniques that are being brought because their pastors are charismatic, or they're young, or they're popular, or, well, everybody else supports them, so they must be doing something right mentality. Millions and millions of the church, those sitting in the churches today, being deceived by these people, and these are the same people that are saying they won't be deceived at the coming deceptions in the last days, because they misinterpret something that Paul wrote in the Scriptures saying the elect wouldn't be deceived. Well, the elect isn't deceived. That's why they're chosen as the 144,000, because they're not deceived. But everybody else is, folks. Define the elect. Define the term elect. And then you will see that, yes, the entire church, the majority of them will be deceived, can be deceived, and a lot of them will fall for it. We're going to take a 5-minute break, folks, and we'll be back in the second half of this show. We'll see you then in about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.